Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It shows me that we are streaming, and I expect I'll see it in another minute. So I'd like to say welcome to all of you. I know a lot of you are at Squat Up. Okay, I forgive you. However, the important people are right here. So I'd like to say thank you very, very much to Alvin Lee for being my guest this week. Alvin, thank you. Thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure.
Well, I feel honored that you're here, and I hope that we are indeed going live. Let's see. Yep, we're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. So that means I can shut up my Facebook. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, I've known you for a while now, and I have been very tickled pink that you would be here. But for those who might not be in sub two or might be here for the first time, I would like to say that Alvin, I know, has around 30 doors plus. Is that right? Somewhere in there?
Somewhere around that range. It was more, but I just recently sold a mobile home park too, so cut a few
You
doors.
sold a mobile RV park?
A mobile home park, yeah, manufactured home park.
Nice, nice. Okay. Okay. And that you do a lot of lending. Is that correct?
I do indeed.
Okay. Let's start with the non-lending. Let's talk about you just sold some assets. Tell us what you've got in assets, how long you've been doing it, and why.
So I've been doing real estate for about 5, 6 years. Over the course of time, I've had short-term rentals, long-term rentals, single-family homes, a small multifamily. I currently have some small multi, 4 units or a little under than that, and then two mobile home parks. One that I just recently acquired in January as well. I had another one, a third one, but just let go of that one the middle of last month, or this month actually, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, but that's where I'm at. Always actively acquiring more and doing more lending to fund more deals and buy more assets. And the end goal is financial freedom. It's not just financial freedom, but freedom of time, right? Because what good is money if you don't have actual freedom to enjoy it?
I totally agree. You and I are on that same page of wanting to make sure that it isn't just money,
Hmm.
but it's time. Time is important. And so, if I heard you correctly, you've got single family homes, you have some multifamily, smaller multifamily,
Hmm.
and mobile parks. Wow. Okay. Why such an arrangement? Wide array.
I think it was progression. Most people start with single family homes, then go to smaller multifamily, then go to apartment complexes or something larger scale. So that's pretty much how I've scaled too. Is I started with a single family home, got a short term rental, did other single families, and then I went into the quadplex range, and then now I'm at the 10 plus unit mobile home park range. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. And okay, forget about spelling. All right. And did you start with assets first or did you start with lending first?
assets, 100%. So my first ever asset was a single family home way across the country. I live in New York. My first asset was a property just outside of Seattle in Tacoma, which I did as a long term rental, bought it, rented it out for 2 years, did a major renovation before selling it, and then sold it. I think it was 2021 or 2022, like right after COVID.
Right after.
Made
Okay.
made a decent amount there and rolled that into other things. I bought the short term rental. I bought my mobile home parks. So you know.
Well, let's talk about that because you did surprise me when I first learned that you actually do real estate long distance.
Mhm.
When you have long distance investing, how do you take care of support? How do you take care of, having a reliable team there if something goes wrong? Tell me about the Seattle one and others. Like, how do you deal with that? Do you build the team first or you just wait till you need it? Or how do you approach that? Because a lot of people would be intimidated by that.
Yeah, I think, myself included before I got started, and a lot of newbies get stuck in analysis paralysis. Oh, do I need an LLC? Do I need to have my team first? Do I need to know every known contractor known to man before I buy something? And I think it's best to just underwrite, do your numbers, obviously do your due diligence, and then just jump in and do it. When problems arise, you're gonna find the solution. So if I need a plumber, and nowadays, I mean, you have Google reviews, you'll find that, or you ask your realtor, hey, do you know, or hopefully you use the realtor, not that you necessarily need one, but in this case, I'm not there personally to see it, so I needed a video call, I needed other people, so I use the realtor. But if anything comes up, you ask for referrals from friends, from other people in the area. You have Facebook. The world is so easily connected through the internet because it's not like 20 years ago, before Facebook, before FaceTime, before Google reviews. At that time, long distance management of properties would have been, so hard. You'd be on the phone all the time. But with the technology that we have today and the apps and connectivity that we have, it's not that hard. I tell people, and this is what a lot of people say, is if something breaks in my own home, a toilet breaks, I have a leak, I'm going to do the same thing that I do here as I do a property across the country. I'm still going to call a plumber. So the only difference is I wouldn't be able to watch it. So when I'm over there, I would have to ask for before and after pictures, or have somebody come by and test it, maybe do a little QA, but quality assurance. But aside from that, there's not really much difference to it. It's harder to get
That's
a
interesting.
close eye on things, but
Yep. That's an interesting thing that you just said, because our world is changing so much right now, especially with technology, particularly when it comes to workforce, like a lot of things that are outsourced, like virtual assistants.
mhm,
Before you would consider it virtual if it was a call center in another city, not if it was overseas. But now we can do that because of the technology. Like you said, what difference does it make if you're calling someone that's downtown, and saying, I need you to do this for me,
mhm.
or whether it's across the city, across the country. Although quality assurance has to play a higher role in
Of
that.
course. It will cost you a
Okay.
little more money managing it long distance because of the QA aspect, or having a good, reliable handyman or anybody reliable to go and check people's work. And, you won't be able to drive over to see it, but, as long as you have good QA and good people, boots on the ground that you'll eventually build, you should be okay. And then if you scale from that point and buy more in one area, then you're just building out your team.
So talk to me about deal sourcing, because you said that you were using realtors because you needed them to be the boots on the ground to walk
Mhm.
and show it to you. But you've got more, or had more than 30 doors and mobile home parks. What was the most effective and unique methods for finding off market deals, or did you always deal with just MLS?
So my long-term rentals, single family wise and short-term rental wise, were bought on the market with realtors. My mobile home parks and small multis were all off market through wholesalers. So friends of friends and wholesalers that they knew, who knew my buy box, and I put the buy box out there, and when things match, you make the connection and you close, hopefully.
Interesting. Okay. So you just put your buy box together and let the wholesalers know this is
I
where I'm
mean,
looking. Now, what did you do? Did you join Facebook wholesale groups in those areas? Or did you just say, like, for those of you who don't know, we're both in a community called Sub 2,
mhm,
and there are a lot of wholesalers there, and there's about a community of about 16,000. And it's easier for us to drop in that community. Hey, here's my buy box, and a lot of other people will see it. So did you stick to a geography first and then kind of get to know the wholesalers around that, or just say, I'm only looking in, I imagine, red states, I don't know, and this is what I'm looking for? Tell me how you found the wholesalers.
it was just all kind of natural. I met people who were other investors through groups like Facebook, and through Sub2, or other, whatever you're interested in. So in my case, it was mobile home parks. I would go into mobile home park groups and say, hey, I'm looking for things, or people will even post deals on those groups. So that's where you can find a lot of deals too. A lot of people think that just because a post has 100 comments saying, oh yeah, send me info, that somebody has already bought it. And it's not true, because out of those 100, maybe 10 people really follow through, and then of those 10, how many really come through? So there's, like I said, with the world of technology that we're in, there's so many different sources, social media being a great outlet for that and a great source. And that's where I've actually made a lot of connections.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And what about I know that you had an occasion where you had to worry about your EMD or scammers.
Hmm.
Talk to us about that. I thought it was interesting, and I'd like for our listeners to hear it.
Yeah. So actually, I still the one EMD that I've lost, well, technically, still have lost is it was a $50,000 EMD um for a property in Arizona. Somebody was a wholesaler came to me looking for actually a connector we both know brought us a deal and we underwrote it. We did all the paperwork, did everything correctly. But what we couldn't stop is having a lawyer as the seller and somebody who was nitpicking on words and fought the release of the EMD despite everything. So they had to go to mediation. We lost. We had to give up some money to get it resolved, and so the money will come back in hopefully in time. But it's not a, it's a loss for night for right now. Yeah.
What grounds did he base it on?
So
That's a lot of money.
it is a lot of money. So I fault it to the contract. Ultimately, everything comes down to legal wording, right? And being a lawyer, he nitpicked at every little thing, and he was able to find ambiguities. And when you have ambiguity or words that are can be questioned, despite what escrow had told us and promised us multiple times in writing and over the phone, saying that 100% we would have our money back if we canceled during inspection. They when it came time and the seller came to the dispute, they say, "Oh, we're hands off. I'm not dealing with it. You guys mediate it out. We're escrow. We're neutral. We're not staying on any side." But you clearly just wrote 4 times that you were going to release it, and so despite doing everything right, you can lose money.
So is he claiming that he deserves it?
Yeah. He said that because he was under the assumption that the EMD was not going to be refundable and because the wholesaler was buying it as is. I made sure to emphasize to escrow his contract states that we are buying this property as is, but he still has that 10-day inspection period, correct? They said yes. Just because in section 8, whatever, that he says he's buying it as is, that doesn't negate the fact that you still have a 10-day inspection period. Escrow confirmed it. Agent intended it that way, but because of the ambiguity of how the contract in the addendum was written, we were SOL. Escrow is holding on to it, and if we were unable to come to an agreement in mediation, then they would have sent it to court, which at that point then we have to fight it out in court, and the legal fees would have been a lot, and time would have been a lot. So, and because I wasn't the actual person on contract here, it wasn't even me making the decisions here. It's the wholesaler. So and you sacrifice control of your money the moment it leaves your pocket, unfortunately.
That's a lesson for all of us, for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Interesting.
the
Very
lesson to
interesting.
learn is how to improve going forward, and for I'm analyzing every word in every contract going forward.
If you could go back and redo that, how would you have stopped that from happening?
I think I would have reworded the contract. I would have made him make sure that the addendum says buying property as is, 10-day inspection period, and subject to inspection, buyer has full right to cancel within the 10-day. Like if you state it out and beat the dead horse in the contract, there's no way they can refute it. So you just have to make it overly obvious what your contract states and what you're intending.
Right. Yeah.
They
Yeah. I
left
think that you're right
ambiguity
about
because a lot of realtors they just write this, oh, buyer to buy purchase property as is, but as is,
and they don't think.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the only
Yeah.
reason why I allowed it to continue was because escrow assured us in writing and in verbally that they were gonna with that we had it. But when push comes to shove,
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So has that been like the most significant error that you've or challenge you've met?
there are others. I mean, there's always some bad loans here and there, but I don't think that everything is a loss. I think that most of the supposed bad loans that I'm in, I will be made whole, and everybody will be made right. It's just a matter of time. So But with every bad loan or every deal that you run into, you improve. You make sure you tighten up your processes, tighten up everything that you're doing, and you make sure that that same thing doesn't happen again.
Doesn't happen again. Let's talk a little bit about the lending. When did you start lending and how are you approaching it? And, where are you at with that?
I started lending actually before probably 2022. As with a lot of newbies starting out in real estate, you don't know quite where you want to go. You're trying to learn different things. So I started lending to fix and flippers on my own privately, my own money for their down payments or construction startup, whatever it is, just to build relationships and to hopefully learn something from them as they do it. Because maybe I wanted to flip in the future. Hey, let me ask you how you did this. Because we have that relationship. So I did that on the side several times. Yeah, virtually, all virtually. And then from there, early last year, probably around this time, I turned it into a more full time, larger scale lending and started off lending all my own money first, all my own stuff, test the waters, make sure I'm doing everything right. Obviously attended masterminds and other things to sharpen up my skills and my toolbox too. And then from there, you run out of capital but you still get a lot of deal flow, so why not help others the same way that I'm able to profit off of real estate, for them to profit and to earn back their time as well.
So at this time, you're lending other people's money, like a true lender.
And my own, I still use my own funds, and I will bring in other capital as well.
Talk to us about how you raise capital and how you secure it properly so that it's lent, that the borrowers are good borrowers.
Yeah. So underwriting a borrower and the deal is, you can have multiple podcasts just on that alone. But, generally speaking, you have to, do full background checks on the borrower, their credit scores, their experience, past HUD statements. Then you have to, obviously check the property itself, do title searches, record searches, get escrow to provide lenders and title policies. You have to have a recorded deed of trust, of course. Otherwise, what are you secured with? Insurance, you got to be added to that. Everything that you would need, promissory note, trust. Sorry about that. A deed of trust and lenders, title policies, insurance, all that. You have to get all the boxes checked. Getting the identities, IDs of all my borrowers, making sure that they are who they say they are, the whole nine yards.
Okay, that raises some questions. There's a lot of steps in that process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever come across borrowers that you're like, yeah, no, this is not you, or you have a record, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Has any? I mean, those are the steps that we want to take, but have they ever paid off in that they
You
stopped you
caught
from going
somebody?
forward?
100%. I've caught so many things, right? There was somebody else in our group, in our real estate group, also caught this once before, but there's a known scammer. At the time, I didn't know it was a known scammer. He purposely goes out and falsifies contracts on homes and states that he needs a double close, and everybody wants to do a double close because they're supposed to be quick and easy money.
And
So they
safe.
say. But I, did the title, told them to do a title search, did, make sure everything is right. And I was like, I can't find anything on this title company. And, this borrower, it turns out it was his own friend that owned the title company, another, false LLC. And, you check their records, it was only created like a month ago. His LLC is outdated, expired, not even renewed anymore. And, then you do a quick Google search of the person's name and red flags popping up left and right. That saved me. That was going to be almost 100 grand double close. If you would have lost that, that would have been real bad. So I
Of
caught
course.
that. There were other ones where I did title searches for homes and homes were coming up in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, like they were going to auction in a few weeks. That was another red flag, things that come up with that. But always got to do
Well,
your.
I mean, it's one thing if they say that this is a pre-foreclosure property and
Mhm.
this is where we are. It's another thing if they're like, no, everything's good,
Yeah.
and you don't need to worry. That's interesting. Yeah, the title companies. I know, even going using Google Street and going and making sure that the right address is on that house and all sorts of things need to be
Mhm.
done. Do you do all of those yourself, or do you get help on that? Because that's a lot of steps.
It is a lot of steps. Right now, it is all me. Eventually, again, my goal is time, right? So that will be not outsourced, but I will hire help to assist with that eventually.
Interesting. Since you obviously thought about growing and know what you want to do, what is your next step? Because right now you are doing all of that. That's very time consuming, and you're also still working
Hmm.
full time. So that doesn't give you a lot of free time. And that's okay for the moment if we know it's going to result
Hmm.
in something that's more freedom. But what will be your next step? What's your plan? What's your goal, first of all? How much do you want to be making, and how do you intend to get there?
I don't have a specific goal number. Some people say, they need 10K a month, 20K a month. I mentioned to you previously, and, since our guests don't know, I don't care if I have $1 or $1 million in my bank account, as long as that dollar is enough to suffice on what I need. So as long as the what's coming in is greater than what's going out, and I have the time and health and freedom that I need, the number doesn't matter to me. It's all about the freedom. In terms of buying back that freedom, it's about automating what I can, systematizing what I can, and organizing it in a fashion that allows me to streamline my processes. Right now I'm using a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of manual data collection. I mean, obviously I have forms and other things, but I plan to, in the short month or two, probably migrate over to Monday.com and do a lot of automation there. And then once I've raised enough capital, have enough loans going, then we'll hire help to maybe bring on an underwriter, maybe a TC to help deal with transactions and follow up. So all these things will lead to not taking myself out of the business, but removing what I can from my desk to focus on also growing the business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're a very good underwriter. Would you be training the person, or would you be hiring someone that's even better than you,
Well,
has more experience? You
yeah,
know,
if I could hire somebody better than me and they want to get paid a reasonable amount, 100%, I would do that. Why not get the most qualified person that I can? But I think everybody has their own processes and their own guidelines to follow. So I'll build out SOPs and standards of practice for them to follow. What I want them to check, and obviously they're welcome to bring in their own if they have any ideas, and we can talk about it. And always open to improvement. So definitely.
do you think that you would go the route of hiring help or building a team of co-owners? Like if you have the money and you decide,
I'm not against any opportunity, right? So if the right business partner or somebody with a similar mindset, similar values and goals comes along, I would 100%. I have a lot of partnerships in my real estate, and it's all about the right fit. I tend to tread very lightly when it comes to partnerships. You don't know who you're getting into bed with, and once you're into bed with them, it's very hard to pull yourself out if it's not the right way. So I would take my time and make sure I know this person very well before even getting to that point, especially when it's millions at stake.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. So at this time, how are you approaching the capital raising?
Just in a very natural manner. I mean, I tell everybody about what I do and how I'm buying, how I'm lending, just building connections, spending time meeting new people, new borrowers, new lenders, or people that have money that want to put it to work. I was at the bank the other day doing something for one of my LLCs, and I saw this lady that came in and she was renewing her CD. I almost wanted to jump out of my chair and be like, girl, please do not do that. But the bankers already had her, and I was like, I'm not going to do this inside a bank and ruin my relationship. But but
They
I
might kick
almost,
you out.
yeah, I'm almost like, why would anybody put their money in a CD? It's your money. You've worked hard for your money. Now your money has to work harder for you than you worked for. Otherwise, you'll always be in the cycle in that rat race of working for money, right?
Yeah. Well, could you tell how old she was? About?
She was, I don't think that she would have been an easy conversion. She was probably in her 70s or around there.
Well, I can't speak for all 70-year-olds, but I do think that a lot of them are set in their ways
Yeah.
and they are afraid. So,
Yeah.
They think CDs are safe and that they know that. So let me stick with what I know.
Of course.
You know, yeah,
And at
probably
a
some.
certain age, you're looking for stability, and that's why you have a target date funds, right? In Ks and 403Bs is because your risk tolerance gets lower as you get closer to retirement, and you need that nest egg. So I totally understand. It's not for everybody, but it just hurts me when people are giving their money away for free. Like with checking accounts, if you have money sitting in a checking account, it's literally earning maybe a penny a year because it's 0.0001%, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you're paying for the bank fees too, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes. They get their cut. There's no doubt about that. So what are the going rates for hard? Do you do hard money lending also?
No, just private, all private.
Private. So what's the range right now?
It really varies. There's a lot that go from 10 to 12% per year, all the way up to the what you hear out there for 30, 40% or more sometimes. But you got to be careful with what you're lending on. The better the rate, there's a reason why they're paying that rate. As I progress, I am moving more towards the lower rate, safer loans to get to one of our good friends' areas of doing things. It's more about being profitable, but at a safe pace, right? You don't want to get caught up in these, fast, quick reward type loans if they're not sustainable.
Right. And of course, there's also usury. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not sure if there are that many that you could do 30 unless you're a credit card company. Then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But, for private money lending, a lot of times they are restricted by the state that you're in. And as you say, what is it you're lending on? And all of it. So you do need to be very careful. I know that, one of our good friends who, was saying you have to be careful because sometimes people will hang out bait and say, I'm willing to pay 39%
Hmm.
for X amount, you know, and for only a short period. And then when they get your money, they come in with a lawyer right afterwards and slap you for usury. Like,
And then they get
and
it
then,
for next to
apparently
nothing.
people are like, wait a minute, you were the one that stated it. So what? You're responsible for knowing. It's
Exactly.
like, that's interesting. Because if you go to court, the judge is going to say, no, no, no. And
Yep.
they know it. So I thought, what an interesting scam, to go ahead and tell people that you're willing to pay X amount and lure them in from that and then say, we're going to court and you're going to lose
Hmm.
unless you settle with me right now and I'm going to take half your money or whatever. I was like,
Hmm.
wow, okay, no usury. I don't know if I could, like when you go into those really high ratios, I think that they are too good to be true. And a lot of times you kind of almost forced, if they don't know and they're really honestly thinking they can do that
Hmm.
because of their dumb underwriting or whatever they've done, um, you're kind of putting them at a position where they're going to fail.
Hmm.
And I don't really want that to happen. But as a lender, also, I don't want to lend on anything that I wouldn't be happy owning. Because if
Exactly.
you do have to go through foreclosure, why would you want to end up with something that you don't want?
Exactly.
So, just because of
Uh,
the return, that doesn't make sense.
I've turned down numerous borrowers who come to me. We can do this. This is a good property. I help them underwrite it. And I always tell them, look, above all else, I'm an investor first. If your deal is not going to make money, I'm going to tell you that it's not going to make money. I get that you want the deal. It's hard to come by a deal for a lot of people, but you don't want to buy a bad deal. So, and I'm going to lose business on this. I tell them, I'm not going to make any money, but if you don't make any money, I don't make any money either. So I'd rather you go and make money than to come and, let me make money off of you and then you walk away with nothing. So,
So you tell them when it's a bad deal that they shouldn't do it.
I mean, 85% of
So
the
you're
deals I
definitely
can do a day
willing
with.
to, yeah. So you're the bearer of bad news.
A lot of times, hey, I have to cut it straight,
What do you expect from your borrowers in the way of
transparency, communication.
absolutely? But when they bring you a deal, are you expecting them to bring a pitch deck? Are you expecting them to verify their own credentials? Like, let's say, we know each other, but not much.
Hmm.
And somebody says, I've got a deal and I want for you to lend it on me.
The
What are you asking them to show you?
I have questionnaires that I give to them that gives me my basic information that I need from them, where the property is, the address, their strategy. But they need to come prepared with what their plan is, their strategy, and how they plan to repay the lender and make money themselves. So they need to know, okay, this is my exit strategy A. If that fails, I have B and C in line, or I could always pivot here and pivot there, or these are the people that I have, these are the projects that I've done before. You need to be prepared with, you know, making somebody feel confident lending to you. Now, if you come to me with an overly glaring thing, then I'm just going to scrutinize you either way. I mean, I'm going to scrutinize one way or another, but you have to know what you're doing. And if you're not confident in yourself, then how are you going to make a lender confident, giving you hundreds of thousands, whatever the number. So
Do you require PFS from your borrowers, the personal financial statements?
going, a lot of PFS and SREO, statement of real estate owned, is a big thing. And the more that I go forward, the more that I start requiring those. But given a lot of the borrowers that we take on probably don't have very much. They're either flippers or, depending on the type of transaction, wholesalers, and those you don't really, it's not PML. So, but PML, a lot of the people are just starting out, so they may only have a few. But to fill out a PFS and a SREO for that should be simple.
It's a higher risk.
Yeah, definitely is.
Yeah. So do you give a better rate for people who are financially, strong and show that to you?
Yeah.
They've got 4 houses or 5 or 10 and they've got their PFS and it looks strong. Do you feel, I mean, after you'd have to vet it, but do you feel like that's a safer bet? I'm going to charge them less than I will to the person who's a newbie and this is their fifth fix and flip, but they're still new and they don't
Mhm.
have much.
Well, 100%. The more experience that somebody has and the more collateral that they have, the better that the rate can be technically. But there's still a baseline amount of risk that we're taking. We're still, like I said, once that money leaves your pocket, it's out of your hands. So the more that I can be collateralized and the lower loan to value ratio, the easier that I would be able to fire sale a property, then I can give you a more preferential rate.
Have you ever had to fire sale a property?
Not yet. No.
Well, that's good. That's good. Did you ever have to foreclose?
No, I've threatened it, but haven't needed to yet.
Yeah. I think if the borrowers understand that you're willing to,
Hmm.
and here's the name of my foreclosure attorney,
Hmm.
that I'm ready. I think that the more it's good because you're going to be better off than if you're just kind and I find that that's an issue sometimes with our group, especially with older women that have money,
Hmm.
that they get into deals with some of the young buckaroos and then they end up doing dumb things and they don't know how to handle it. The women don't know how to handle it. They're like, well, what can I do? I'm like, foreclose on them. You gotta be the shark.
How you tell somebody is a good investor or not is not when things are going well, but it's when things have hit the fan. How do they react? A pipe just burst in your rehab and flooded your whole first floor. What are you going to do about it? How much reserves do you have, or what are you going to do to remediate the issue? What else was I thinking? When you were talking about threatening foreclosure and the risk of them defaulting, it all ties back to how much skin in the game they have. If they put 20-30% of their own money into a property and I go and foreclose and they lose their 20 or 30%, they have a much greater chance to make sure that we're made whole so that they don't lose that money too. So it's all about skin in the game and having skin in the game.
Do you require them to?
I do. I mean, they can, if I'm, let's say, in first position, they can get that from somebody else in second position. But in first position, I want to be, or second, I want to be secured regardless. I lend to the same loan to value ratio. It doesn't matter if it's first or second because I want to be protected one way or another.
But if you lend on first, and then they go and get a second,
hmm
they really don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah. I
You can get
mean,
100% financing unless you purposely say, unless you explicitly say, I don't allow second positions,
mhm.
which a lot of hard money lenders do. Um,
It
you
still
know,
can't stop them though. Even though you say that you don't allow it, doesn't stop them from doing it. It just makes you the first position lender that they're going behind, you know? So ideally, yes. Would they put 30% of their own money in the game? Yes. But most of the people who are using private money are not the kind that are going to be tying up 30% in each property. So they're looking to scale, they're looking to grow. So they're going to leverage. What I'm looking for is security for myself and my lenders, making sure that we're safe. And like our good friend says, if they have second, third, fourth, fifth positions, as long as we're covered, then you can't stop somebody from being stupid. But as long as you cover yourself, then you're good.
yeah, yep. A little earlier, you said that you're cautious, as you should be, in partnering with anyone. And yet you said you also have partners on assets. When you say partnering, are you talking about true partnering or do you talking about JVing? And,
No, true
how do you,
true LLC partnerships.
so where you each own, there's one LLC and you each own 50% of the LLC.
Yeah, 50% or whatever
Have you
split.
done that?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, talk about it. It scares me.
It is scary. It definitely is scary. You have to know your partner or supposed partner or potential partner very well. I really only have one partner and, maybe some friends of his, but that I've known for several years. Like we've been talking since 2021. We've met in person. We've gone to our properties together. I've seen his track record, his SREO, his PFS, and I know what he's got and what his track record is. And if the benefit has to be mutual, right? Obviously, he's not going to come and help you for no reason. You have to bring something to the table, unless he's just being an angel investor or something. But know them well, and make sure you go through all the hard questions. What happens if you die? What happens if something goes bad, we get into a health concern? How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to take care of each other, or whatnot? So
That's interesting. Did he get to see your SREO
yes,
too? Good.
there's no blindfold here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do all of that. Well, not so much, maybe not the financial background as much, but definitely all the, what ifs, all of them for JVs. I'm only JVing. I want to do partnering, but I think it needs to be like JV, 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 and then what
Partnership.
do we think?
Yeah.
And if we're good, let's do partnership. If not, let's go our separate ways as friends.
hmm
That's one of my goals, and I don't know if it's unreasonable or not. But if I'm going to do any kind of business with you, like a JV, I want to make sure that we don't end up losing our relationship in any way. So I want it to be a mutual goal and to take as many precautions as possible. And then if we only do one JV, that's fine.
Yep.
And then we sell it, whatever, that's fine. No big deal.
You got to test the
You
waters. And I mean, when you say JV, are you guys, you put it in your personal names and then you just, person A, person B, and you JV on it like that in ownership, or you do JV through your LLC? Because you can have,
JV set up an LLC and my LLC or holding company, whatever,
Mhm.
and his or her LLC and holding company, and that's a JV. We're JVing. We're not.
That's no
It's not.
different than, I mean, the way that I see it, that's the same as a partnership anyways. A JV is a form of partnership, right? A joint venture.
Yes, it's kind of like a fiance,
Yeah.
as opposed to you know, going through the wedding.
Yeah, of course.
Because where it really makes a difference is if you're going to split things up
hmm
and where they can reach into your pocket and where
hmm
you can reach into their pocket.
Yep.
If it's a JV, it's just going to be that exposure,
hmm
but if it's as an individual and we and you're as an individual and we're just setting up an LLC, it's like everything that's individual.
Yeah,
I'm trying to protect what I have as
of course.
individual because think now, I also have a number of JVs going. All you need is one of them to go wrong, and then all of a sudden everything else can be
Hmm.
exposed. And I prefer not. It's easier to break up with a JV than it is with a true partnership.
Yeah,
So
internal and
that's why,
external exposure and all that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And with the future, do you think that you're going to do anything other than real estate and lending, or is this going to be your business?
I don't know. You never know what the future holds, right? So I never cross anything else out. There, you might see me as a GP or something on a large apartment syndication or some type of fund in the future. I don't know what the future holds exactly, but it will be a step towards where we're trying to go.
Okay, so the thing is, though, that as a GP or in a syndication, you're talking about lending on a different scale,
Hmm.
on different assets, different rules. What I'm wondering is you're coming from the field of pharmacy. Is that correct?
Hmm. Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know, maybe you've thought of, you know, some software for pharmacists or something. Have you ever thought that you want to do anything other than what's in the real estate arena? Or you now have children. Maybe you want to think about, children's clothing. I don't know. I mean, just thinking because, you're already in two different parts of real estate.
Hmm.
Assets and a variety of assets and
Hmm.
lending. But the lending sounds like you're sticking with PML, not all over. And you've got some EMD and some double closes, but you're not doing like hard money lending or commercial lending or anything like that.
Hmm.
So it seems pretty connected and focused. I'm just kind of curious as to whether you've thought of other things.
No, I mean, I have thought of other things in the past, business ownership, buying and acquiring businesses as well. I've underwritten many businesses for acquisition.
You.
Yes, but for one reason or another, we always turn them down. Just haven't found exactly the right one yet, either the price or, something going on in the business. And again, when I buy businesses, I want to buy something that I'm able to not be there physically and be an absentee owner in a sense, not true absentee, but not there physically at least. So there's a limitation on what you can do there, and then you just have to find the right one.
I'm not, I mean, I am interested in laundromats and I'm also interested in self storage,
Hmm.
things that, and I like, well, land is more real estate, but, there are some things I'd like to expand in, but not at this moment. But, that is interesting. Okay. I'm going to ask if you can, because I like to use the visual. And I would like for you to tell us, what are we looking at here?
This was
Besides, I know it's you. You're a fine looking person.
thank you. This was actually me in the Bahamas. I was when I took this picture, I was actually trying to record something for social media, but I didn't wind up ever posting it. But I was during that trip, I actually closed on a mobile home park and a quadplex, or was it just a quadplex? Maybe just a quadplex.
On a
While
cruise
on
ship?
while on the cruise ship. And I was up till like 11 o'clock at night filling out wire transfer forms, making sure that wire went out, getting in touch with the bank. So I sent out the form at 11 o'clock at night, got the phone call, hey, we're receiving this, while you're international. I just want to verify this thing. Did that at breakfast, closed on it by noon. So, I had to like send in my driver's license and everything from while on this trip. So it was my first time paying for the data plan on the cruise ship. Um, because I had to do all this. And at the same time, I was also not negotiating, but talking with another potential PML opportunity that was over a quarter million on that ship too.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, we've got to find a way of writing off the vacations.
I tried. Cruises are very, very, very difficult to write off, almost impossible. So if it was a plane trip, maybe.
If you were courting a partner or a client,
Hmm.
on a business, on a cruise ship, through a trip, would you not be able to? I would think you would.
If you were flying or driving to, yes, but from my research, a cruise is nearly impossible because you get so many other amenities. You get the room, you get the food, you get everything else. So it's very hard.
Well, it must have been fun to be able to be doing business like that, you know, while you're also cruising.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what is this picture?
This was my first time stepping foot in West Virginia. This was with my partner. We had just finished. We spent 2 days camping out at our mobile home park that we had just acquired to lease up all the tenants, make sure everybody had, all the lease agreements signed. And so we had spent that. And then afterwards, we were just, walking around his hometown. So that was my first time in West Virginia where we had one of our mobile homes.
Nice. So even though you, closed this or were dealing it from a distance, you went there to close to actually, you know, finish it off.
Yeah, I actually didn't have to go in person, but I wanted to meet up with my partner. I wanted to see the park. There's joy in actually seeing what you bought too. So the park that I just bought in January, I haven't seen yet. I plan to go see that soon. Once the spring comes up and it's a little warmer, I'm gonna. That one's within driving distance, so I'll drive. Well, when I say driving distance, it's still several hours away, but this one is upstate New York. I promised myself I wouldn't buy in New York, but this opportunity came by. It was seller finance, very little money down, and because we had completed other refinances on our other properties, the refinances from the other properties basically paid for this one. So I got a seller finance park, basically no money out of pocket. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Now that one you need to do some social media on.
I've been
That's
meaning to.
cool.
I have stuff that I've been planning, and I need to get on your level of social media.
Yeah, it's work, but it's good too. So in the I don't know how to bring it up on the screen, but I do know how to put it in the chat. Would you like to give us your social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, it's Alvin Lee, ITS Alvin Lee. I think on
Hold on.
Facebook,
At
it's
Alvin Lee.
yeah.
That's it.
Um,
No periods in between or anything like
no,
that.
it's Alvin Lee.
Okay.
And then Facebook, I think it's like I have like a number behind mine. I don't know my exact one. Let me pull that up.
Okay. So we've got the IG. Are you on YouTube?
I am not.
Why not? Oh, that's interesting. I just sent it and it went twice.
I don't even have time for Instagram right now. The IG is. I'll put the IG here. That's Instagram.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so you said it
at
at
it's
Alvin Lee, but
Alvin Lee.
it's Alvin Lee.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can take it off.
No, don't worry about it. They'll see the one right
Yeah,
below
yeah.
it.
Drive people crazy. Drive them crazy. Okay, that's interesting. Well, you're awfully busy, I get it. But have you thought about doing anything on YouTube?
Not at the moment. I mean, I love social media and the power that it has, but I want to be more a doer than necessarily on social and just sharing it. Social brings me a lot of funds, it brings me a lot of good connections, but I don't have the time to dedicate to that just yet. Maybe when I lose the W-2, then maybe that'll be the time.
Do you have a timeline on that?
I'd say in the next year or two, I should be.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen this year?
At least another 10 million of loans under management, and
Oh, that's nice.
yeah.
But I wasn't actually asking you about you. That was my mistake. I was asking a poor question. What I should ask is what do you think is going to happen in the market this year? Because we're basically past the first quarter,
Hmm.
and I think would we both agree that things are prices are going down? They're not going up. Are you
Yeah, I
in
think it
agreement
might
with
be a
that?
stagnant year or a little bit slightly negative, but real estate traditionally will go up. So you're going to have your ups and downs. We had a very peak high during COVID. All the prices were astronomical, and it didn't really stop there afterwards. Prices were still going up despite interest rates being in the 7% and higher. So it depends on the market that you're in. There are going to be slower markets and faster paced markets. In New York, prices didn't drop at all. People are still buying at high prices and high rates. So
Are they going up?
they are. I mean, $1 million homes here are now 1.4 million. So, you know,
Yeah. I want to live in Monterey Peninsula,
mhm.
and it's one of the most expensive areas of the States. And unfortunately for me, that's happening there. Yeah, they're continuing, Pebble Beach, Big Sur, Carmel, those beautiful towns. They're continuing to go up and up and up. And I'm like, dang, I was kind of hoping they might drop a bit
Yeah.
so I can get in. But, we'll see. But it is interesting that in some areas they are. What about the price of money and interest rates? First off, your loans, are they short term or long term?
Usually
Ones
mine
that
are
you use?
6 months or less.
6 months or less. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we can call that short term.
Yeah.
Are you thinking interest rates, do you expect them to drop? Because I haven't seen that happening.
I think they're going to stay stagnant for a while, fluctuating here and there, but nothing major in terms of movement.
So do you think, so for private money, do you think that that means that the same, that it's going to stick around whatever it is, or do you think that it's going to be somewhat harder to get private money and the rates might go up?
I think that they're going to be about the same. I mean, if you look at hard money lenders and what their rates are, their rates didn't really change too much, whether the traditional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac were at 7 point something or not. They've always been at that 11, 12 range. So I don't think that rates fluctuate that much per the market. It's a matter of, is it going to be a safe enough deal for us to lend on, and is it the right deal? That's all.
Right. Now, with your children, they're little, aren't they?
Very 5 and under right now.
Okay. What are your thoughts, or have you given any thought, you and your wife, in regards to, the real estate business and the children?
We often discuss whether or not they're going to go to college. My wife's like, "Oh, it doesn't hurt for them to go to college." I'm like, I mean, look at all the rich people who didn't go to college, or what it's about what you do with your time and your know-how, rather than what a college and a going to school for jobs is only training you for that to do your job, right? And can your job become a business? Yes. And so I'm not discounting college or, education. I think that education is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with getting educated, but I would rather my kids, be entrepreneurs, make something generational, do what I wasn't able to do, or hopefully will be able to do, and even more so, right? So,
Why do you
and
say what I wasn't able to do? Why do you say that?
well, I mean, at where I am right now, right? So I went the traditional route. I went to school, did all the years of schooling, worked a traditional job right now. So whereas if, let's say I always talk, theoreticals. If I would have taken the amount of money that my parents spent for college for me and I would have done real estate back then, life would be drastically different, right? So it's it's more so giving them the knowledge that I have, imparting that to them, and allowing them to use that to choose where they want to go. I want them to be happy in what they do, as long as, like I said, I don't need them to be rich or anything of that nature. As long as they're happy and healthy, that's my only requirement.
Yeah, that's true. I think that health is the number one of
Hmm.
all things. And then, of course, we want them to be happy. But whether, it depends. I mean, do you intend to involve them in your business? Like making a point that they understand what, lending is, what properties are, that they're their properties, that sort of thing, and what we
Of course.
do in that capacity? Or is it going to be more of, no, they're going to go to school and they'll figure their own way?
No, you know, when I grew up, my parents were the type that were very hush hush. They don't really teach you what they're doing. Even though my father was a business owner, he had multiple businesses. He never really
Really?
imparted that onto me, and I think that that mindset would have changed things. I mean, he wanted the security for me. This is why we went, we went healthcare, we went whatever. But if I had that mindset, the rich dad poor dad mindset, or imparted to me early, I think that again the I would be in a very different place.
What businesses did your father have? May I ask?
Pharmacies. He had many pharmacies.
Wait, that's interesting. He had many pharmacies, and you went to school to become a pharmacist,
Yep. He wanted me to.
but
Yeah.
but not in the family business.
Well, he eventually sold all of his, so he was still partner in one, but he wound up working in it. So it's not the same as running an absentee business. So
Right.
while he still has businesses to this day, but he didn't, that wasn't his main path. He still had a job, right? So maybe that's step one of wealth building is, be part of the business. But step two is removing yourself from the operations, going into more management. Beyond that, then you get to, like much higher level oversight and so on. So I've already started, I've taken my kids to some of my properties, going to put hands on work at some of our properties. Of course, at their age, what is it really? They're just playing around. But when we go to our properties, my wife says, "Oh, this is daddy's house, like, cabin, or this is daddy's property."
Yep.
So
Yep.
we show them what we have, and we want to impart that knowledge to them. So right now,
That's good.
my kindergartner is still just learning math. When she learns her 5 - 2, then we'll talk about interest ratios and division in different levels, right?
Yep. Yep. My parents were really poor, but they started buying properties, and my mom couldn't speak English.
Hmm.
So I got, grabbed into, you're coming with me. And, excuse me. As a result, I did learn at a very young age. It was 11 when I negotiated the purchase of our first property.
Wow.
And yeah, and that house, and it was on selling for 25,000. And I brought the price down to 24.5. And that house sold for 2.3 million.
How
And
many
that
years
was in
later?
1921,
Wow.
when we were fighting over the estate. And I was like, wow, okay. And they're like, yeah, that one's yours. And that's it. No, because there was more fighting to be had.
Hmm.
But from the first day, we had to push lawnmowers. We had to go cut the grasses at the
Hmm.
properties. She wasn't going to pay for a lawn service, and because of the English thing, we had to go for everything that went wrong. But yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting to see that children can be involved. Depends on, how and what it's calling for. But pretty cool, I must say. Well, as you know, we're both lenders, or, I'm about to get going on that. I look forward to having you back,
Well,
if I
thank you.
may. Yeah. I would love it if when you decided this is it, my W-2's done,
Hmm.
that you
To let you know.
remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know. I mean, I'd be happy to have you before then, but I want to talk about that. It's a
Regard.
big step. That big step, right? Where you are now, which is pretty respectable, to no safety net.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, see, so the safety net is always there. My job and other jobs like mine will always be there. So what's the
Do you
worst that
think
could happen
so?
if I left it? Is always go back to the W-2, right? It
Yes
may
and
not be the
no.
same one.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'm not sure. I think that there's another pharmacist that I actually am in a JV with, and I think AI is going to decimate a lot of jobs,
Hmm.
and many of them will be in the healthcare industry. His company is a really large company, but they decided that they could be more efficient. So a lot of those people were laid off. He was fortunate. He had a few people that were really pulling for him, and he, got he stayed in a slightly different capacity, but a lot of people didn't. And I think it's technology that is making it possible for businesses to let go of people who are highly well educated. And normally we think, of course,
It's true.
it's safe. But I don't know if I quite feel that way anymore. I
Hmm.
see more and more of it happening.
Yeah. And once you left the job market for a while, it's harder to get back into it too. So I think one of the harder things is being the sole income earner and all that. Right now, you need a little bit of that. But once you're at a certain point, you have to spend your time where it's most effective.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to say thank you very, very much. And, when you guys come back from Squat Up, catch up on this, guys.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to stop going live, but I hope we're going to still stay behind scenes. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Next week is our 99th episode. Oh, no excuse. Squat Up, you're back. All right, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you to our guests
Thank you, everybody.
and our future viewers.